The grand lecture hall of the Galactic Council sparkled under the light of 3 artificial suns. Beings from 200 worlds sat in curved rows that rose high toward the ceiling. Some had scales, others had fur. Some breathed water in special suits, while others floated in the air with no legs at all. Yet despite their many differences, they all came together today for one important reason: to learn about the newest species asking to join their community, humans. Professor Zixtel moved to the center of the stage. His blue skin shimmered as his 8 limbs adjusted the control panel before him. He was respected across 27 star systems for his knowledge of dangerous planets and the life forms that somehow managed to survive on them. "Distinguished representatives," he began, his voice translator making his clicks and whistles understandable to all present. "Today I must warn you about a planet classified as extreme danger category. The natives call it Earth, but in our scientific records it is simply Sol3." A large image appeared above him. It showed a blue and green planet with swirling white clouds. It looked peaceful from a distance, and many in the audience made sounds of appreciation at its beauty. "Do not be fooled by its appearance," Professor Zixtel warned. "This world is one of the most dangerous places in our charted galaxy." He touched a button, and the image changed to show a volcano spewing red-hot lava into the air. Sol3 has over 500 active volcanoes. The ground itself is unstable, with massive plates that crash into each other, causing earthquakes that can destroy entire cities in moments. The image changed again to show a massive storm with swirling clouds. They call these hurricanes. Wind speeds can reach over 200 units per time measure. These storms regularly destroy their settlements. And this is not rare, they happen every season. Many in the audience moved nervously in their seats. Some whispered to their neighbors. One small green being near the front covered all 4 of its eyes. The temperature range on this single planet is wider than most species can tolerate in their entire evolution. Some regions burn at levels that would melt the skin of many beings in this room, while others freeze so deeply that even their oceans turn solid. Professor Zixtel paused to let this information sink in. He clicked a button, and a new set of images appeared, these showing Earth's animals. The biological threats are even more concerning. Nearly every part of this world contains predators that would be classified as extreme dangers on any civilized planet. The images showed lions hunting, sharks swimming, bears catching fish, and eagles diving for prey. "But the most concerning development," continued the professor, his voice growing more serious, "is what these conditions have done to the dominant species, humans." Now the image showed people running, climbing mountains, building cities, and launching rockets. Humans have evolved in response to their deadly world. They can continue physical activity long after most species would collapse from exhaustion. They can survive injuries that would kill others. Their bodies can adapt to extreme temperatures, high altitudes, and even radiation levels that would harm most of us. Linda Hoffman sat in the back row, trying not to draw attention to herself. As Earth's junior ambassador, this was her first important meeting. Her boss, Ambassador George Martinez, had told her to just watch and take notes. But as she listened to the professor describe her home and her people like some kind of horror story, she found it harder and harder to stay quiet. "The psychological profile of humans is perhaps most troubling," Professor Zixtel continued. "They show curiosity beyond safe levels. They take risks that our experts consider irrational. They have a drive to explore and expand that knows no natural limits." The professor pulled up charts and data points that meant little to Linda, but clearly disturbed the audience. "Humans will purposely climb their highest mountains, dive into their deepest oceans, and even leave their planet entirely, all with technology that our safety standards would never approve. They expose themselves to danger voluntarily, something most rational species avoid." A tall, thin alien with purple skin stood up. "Professor, are you suggesting these humans enjoy danger?" "Excellent question, Representative Plex," the professor responded. "Our studies show they don't merely tolerate danger, many of them actively seek it. They have recreational activities called sports and adventures where they deliberately place themselves in harm's way for entertainment. The crowd buzzed with nervous energy. Linda saw how they looked at each other with concern. Some were moving away from her, as if being human might somehow be catching. Now consider what happens when a species evolved for constant threat response encounters the relatively peaceful galaxy we have all worked to build, Professor Zixtel said. Will they see our stability as an opportunity for cooperation? Or will they find it boring and seek to create the chaos they are adapted to thrive in? Linda felt her face grow warm. The professor wasn't lying exactly. Earth was indeed a place with many dangers. But the way he described humans made them sound like monsters or thrill-seeking maniacs. There was so much he wasn't saying. The decision about including Earth in our community is yours to make, Professor Zixtel concluded. But as your scientific advisor, I must caution extreme care. These humans come from conditions that have shaped them into perhaps the most unpredictable species we have ever encountered. He bowed slightly, his upper limbs crossing in the formal gesture of respect. I will now take your questions. The room erupted with voices and translated comments. Linda watched as the representatives called out their concerns, each seeming more worried than the last. Do they understand the concept of peace? Are they likely to attack without provocation? Can they control their danger-seeking behaviors? Linda looked down at her notes. She had written nothing. Instead, she found herself drawing a simple sketch of her niece's birthday party back home, children laughing, parents talking, everyone sharing food and stories under the maple tree in her brother's backyard. That was the Earth. The professor didn't know about. Linda took a deep breath and stood up. She wasn't supposed to speak today. Ambassador Martinez would probably be upset, but someone needed to tell the whole truth. Professor, she said, her voice carrying clearly across the now quiet room. May I add some important information about my home planet that you seem to have left out? All eyes in the room turned to look at her. The professor's four main eyes blinked in surprise. A human wishes to speak, he said finally. This is unexpected but perhaps informative. Linda straightened her jacket and began walking toward the stage, aware that she was about to change everything. Every eye in the great hall followed Linda as she walked down the center aisle. Some aliens leaned away as she passed, as if they feared catching something from her. Others stared with all their eyes, clearly curious about this creature from a dangerous world. Linda felt her heart beating fast, but she kept her face calm. She had not planned to speak today. Ambassador Martinez had been very clear about that. But listening to Professor Zixtel talk about Earth, like it was some kind of nightmare world, had pushed her to act. When she reached the speaking area, the professor moved aside. His 8 limbs twitched nervously. Thank you, Professor, Linda said, her voice steady despite her nerves. Everything you have shared is technically correct. Earth does have volcanoes, storms, and many animals that could hurt people, but I'd like to offer some important context about my home. She touched the control panel, surprised to find it responded to her human hands. The image above changed to show a beautiful beach at sunset. This is where I grew up, she explained. Yes, the ocean you see here can have dangerous storms, but it's also the place where many of us feel most at peace. She changed the image again. Now it showed a family having a picnic beside a lake with mountains in the distance. The same forces that built those mountains also cause earthquakes, that's true. But millions of people visit these places every year to feel connected to nature, not because they're seeking danger. A large alien with spiky skin and 3 trunk-like legs made a rumbling noise. The translator converted it to words. But why would your people live in places that could kill them? On my world, we abandoned all volcanic regions thousands of years ago, Linda nodded. That's a good question. Sometimes it's because those places offer resources we need. Sometimes it's because our planet has many people and we must use all available land. But often it's because we see beauty and possibility even in challenging places. She changed the image again, this time showing a city rebuilt after an earthquake. When disaster does strike, we don't just accept it as the cost of living on a dangerous planet, we learn from it. We build stronger buildings. We create warning systems. We find ways to live with our world, not in fear of it. A small alien with feathers and 6 wings fluttered nervously. But Professor Zixtal showed that humans seek danger for entertainment. This seems irrational, Linda smiled. I understand why it might seem that way. But what looks like danger-seeking to you is something different to us. She brought up images of people climbing mountains, running marathons, and swimming in the ocean. These activities challenge our bodies and minds. They help us grow stronger and more capable. They connect us with our world and with each other. The focus isn't on the danger, it's on the achievement, the experience, the joy of testing our limits. Many in the audience still looked confused or concerned. Linda realized she needed something more compelling. Let me tell you about my grandmother. Ellen Rogers, she said. She's 92 years old and has lived through storms, economic troubles, and personal losses. Last year, her home was damaged in a flood. Linda brought up a picture of an elderly woman standing in front of a half-rebuilt house, surrounded by people of different ages. When this happened, my grandmother didn't face it alone. Neighbors came to help. People she'd never met brought food and supplies. Together, they saved what could be saved and rebuilt what was lost. The image changed to show the house fully repaired with flowers planted in front. This is what the professor's data doesn't show you about humans. Yes, we evolved on a world with many dangers. But our main adaptation wasn't becoming more dangerous ourselves, it was learning to work together. A blue alien with a transparent body spoke up. But humans fight wars against each other. Our records show this clearly. Linda nodded sadly. Yes, that's true. We have fought wars and we still have conflicts. We are not perfect. But throughout our history, our greatest achievements have come not from fighting, but from cooperation. She showed images of hospitals, schools, farms, and scientific laboratories. For every weapon we've created, we've made thousands of tools to build, heal, grow, and learn. Most humans spend their entire lives never harming anyone. Instead, they focus on caring for their families, helping their communities, and trying to leave their world better than they found it. A tall alien with crystal-like skin moved forward. I am Ambassador Devin Walsh from the human colony on Proxima Centauri. I can confirm what Ambassador Hoffman is saying. Since establishing our colony, we have focused on building and creating, not conquering or destroying. Linda gave him a grateful look. Thank you, Ambassador Walsh. She turned back to the full audience. Professor Zixtal mentioned that humans are curious and take risks. This is true. But our curiosity isn't a threat. It's our greatest gift. It's what drives us to learn, to explore, to understand others different from ourselves. It's why I'm standing here today, hoping to build bridges between our worlds. The professor had been watching silently. Now he stepped forward. But humans have developed many dangerous technologies in a very short time. Your weapons could destroy your entire planet. Yes, Linda admitted, we have created terrible weapons. But we also understand their cost better than anyone. The same curiosity that led to those weapons also drives us to find ways to live in peace. The same adaptability that helps us survive on our changing planet helps us learn from our mistakes. She changed the display one last time, showing Earth from space, a blue marble hanging in the darkness. From out here, you can't see the volcanoes or the storms. You can't see our conflicts or our weapons. What you see is the home of billions of people who wake up each day and try to live good lives, care for those they love, and make something beautiful in a universe that can sometimes be harsh. The grand hall had fallen completely silent. Every being was watching Linda, their earlier fear now mixed with curiosity and, from some, the beginning of understanding. An elderly alien with skin like bark and roots instead of feet spoke in a voice that sounded like rustling leaves. Young human, you speak well for your species, but words are easy. How can we know that the peaceful nature you describe is the true one? Linda took a deep breath. This was the crucial moment. I don't expect you to simply take my word for it, she said. Instead, I'd like to show you something about Earth life that the professor's data doesn't capture. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small object. If you'll allow me to continue, I think I can demonstrate why humans aren't something to fear, but potential friends worth knowing. Linda opened her hand to reveal a small green plant. It had thick, rounded leaves arranged in a tight spiral pattern. The plant was no bigger than her palm. "This is called a succulent," she explained. "It comes from one of the harshest places on Earth, a desert where rain rarely falls and the sun burns hot enough to kill most living things." The aliens leaned forward, their many different eyes and sensing organs focused on the tiny plant. It seemed so ordinary, so harmless. Many looked confused, clearly wondering why she would show them this simple thing. "On Earth we have places where almost nothing can live," Linda continued. "Too hot, too cold, too dry, too salty. But life finds a way. This little plant has special abilities that let it survive where other plants would die." She gently touched one of the thick leaves. "It stores water inside its leaves. It has a special kind of skin that keeps moisture from escaping. When the sun is too strong, it can actually change how it uses light energy to protect itself." Professor Zixtel moved closer, his scientific curiosity clearly stronger than his caution now. "Many planets have life forms adapted to difficult conditions," he said. "This is not unique to Earth." "You're right," Linda nodded. "But there's something special about Earth life, including humans, that I want to demonstrate." She looked around the room. "Would anyone be willing to share some water from their world?" After a moment of confused silence, a tall alien with blue, crystal-like skin stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Nix from Rigel 7. Our water is highly acidic by your standards. It would harm your skin if you touched it." "Perfect," Linda said. "May I use a small amount?" The Rigelian ambassador looked uncertain but nodded to an assistant, who brought forward a clear container filled with faintly glowing blue liquid. Linda thanked them and placed her small plant in a cup she took from her pocket. Then she carefully poured a small amount of the Rigelian water into the cup. "By your scientific understanding," Linda said to Professor Zixtel, "what should happen to this Earth plant when exposed to this acidic water?" The professor's eyes blinked in sequence. "The cell walls would break down. The internal chemistry would be disrupted. It would die within minutes." "That would be true for most plants," Linda agreed. "But watch what happens." For several long moments, nothing seemed to change. The aliens waited, some growing restless. Then one of the more observant ones with multiple eyes pointed at the cup. "The water! Its color is changing where it touches the plant's roots." Everyone looked closer. Indeed, the glowing blue liquid was slowly turning clear around the base of the plant. The plant itself wasn't dying. Instead, its roots were actively growing into the liquid. "This plant is changing the chemistry of the water," Linda explained. "It's neutralizing the acid, transforming something harmful into something it can use. And it's not just surviving, it's adapting." The professor moved even closer, his scientific instruments extended to take readings. "Extraordinary," he admitted. "The plant is secreting compounds that convert the acid into useful nutrients." "I've never seen such a rapid adaptive response." "Life on Earth doesn't just endure difficult conditions," Linda said. "It transforms them. This is the truth I wanted to share about humans too. We don't just survive the dangers of our world. We learn from them, we adapt. We change ourselves and our environment to create something better." She looked around at the assembled aliens, making eye contact with as many as she could. "The professor told you that humans evolved on a dangerous world. That's true. But he didn't tell you what that really means. It means we learn to work together to overcome challenges. It means we developed compassion because we understand suffering. It means we value peace because we know the cost of conflict." A small alien with feathery tentacles spoke up. "But your history shows many wars and violence." "Yes," Linda acknowledged. "We have made terrible mistakes. We have hurt each other and our planet. But that's not the whole story. Throughout our history, even in our darkest moments, there have always been humans who chose kindness over cruelty. who worked for peace instead of war, who built instead of destroyed. She gestured to the plant, still thriving in what should have been deadly water. Like this plant, we can transform poison into nourishment. We can take painful lessons and use them to grow. Our greatest achievements came after our worst failures. The Grand Archon of the Galactic Alliance, who had been watching silently until now, finally spoke. His voice was deep and seemed to come from everywhere at once. Human Ambassador, your demonstration is compelling. But I must ask, if your people are as adaptable as you claim, what happens when you face no challenges? When life becomes too easy? Will you create problems simply to solve them? It was a thoughtful question, and Linda took a moment before answering. That concern makes sense based on what you've heard about us. But easy conditions don't make humans destructive. They allow our better qualities to flourish. When we're not fighting to survive, we create art, music, and literature. We explore ideas, we look for ways to help others. We dream about a better future. She smiled. Humans don't need danger to thrive. We need purpose. We need connection. We need to feel that our lives have meaning. And we find that meaning not in conquering or controlling, but in creating, learning, and sharing with others. Ambassador Walsh, from the Proxima Centauri colony, stepped forward again. I can confirm this from our experience. When we established our colony, we faced new challenges very different from Earth. We didn't respond with violence or fear. We adapted our technology, our farming methods, even our social structures to work better in our new home. And as we've grown more secure, we've built schools, theaters, and research centers, not weapons. Professor Zixtel was still studying the plant, which continued to transform the acidic water. He looked up at Linda with all four of his main eyes. Ambassador Hoffman, your demonstration has given me much to reconsider. Perhaps our assessment of humans has been ... incomplete. Linda nodded respectfully to the professor. Science is always about learning new information and updating our understanding. That's something humans and your people have in common. The Grand Archon made a sound that the translators didn't convert. Perhaps it was a thoughtful hum or sigh. We will need time to consider what we have learned today, he said finally. But I believe this conversation should continue. Ambassador Hoffman, would you be willing to share more about your species with our council? Linda felt relief wash over her. It wasn't full acceptance yet, but it was an opening, a chance to build understanding. I would be honored, she said. And perhaps some of you might share stories of your own worlds. I think we all have much to learn from each other. As she spoke, Linda noticed something remarkable. The aliens were no longer leaning away from her. Some had actually moved closer. The Grand Archon called for a short break. The alien representatives moved about the hall, talking in small groups. Many glanced at Linda with new interest. A few even approached her with questions. Linda noticed Professor Zixtal standing alone, still studying the plant that continued to thrive in the now clear Rigelian water. She walked over to him. Professor, I hope I didn't embarrass you, she said. That wasn't my intention. The alien scientist's skin changed color slightly, shifting from blue to a purplish tone that Linda couldn't interpret. You have challenged my conclusions, he replied. But that is the proper scientific process. When new data appears, we must adjust our understanding. He raised one of his instruments, which projected a series of images of Earth, but these were different from the frightening pictures he had shown earlier. These showed forests recovering after fires, coral reefs growing in clear waters, and green plants pushing up through urban concrete. I have studied dangerous worlds for 47 galactic cycles, Professor Zixtal said. I focused on the threats, the extreme conditions, the survival adaptations, but I never considered that life might not just survive these conditions, but transform them, Linda smiled. That's what makes Earth special, I think. Life there doesn't just endure. It creates new possibilities. Before they could continue their conversation, a commotion broke out on the far side of the hall. Linda turned to see Ambassador Martinez rushing toward her, his face tight with concern. Hoffman, what have you done? He hissed when he reached her. You were supposed to observe only? These negotiations are incredibly delicate. Linda stood her ground. Sir, with respect, they weren't hearing the full truth about Earth. They were afraid of us because they only knew half the story. Ambassador Martinez looked around, noticing how many aliens were watching them with interest rather than fear. His expression softened slightly. Well, it seems you haven't caused a diplomatic disaster after all, he admitted. But next time, please consult with me before taking such a risk. The Grand Archon's voice filled the hall, calling everyone back to their places. As Linda returned to her seat, now in the front row at the Archon's request, she noticed something strange. Ambassador Martinez remained standing near the back, talking urgently into his communication device. The Grand Archon, a tall being with skin that seemed to contain swirling galaxies, addressed the assembly. Before we continue with Ambassador Hoffman's presentation, we have received an urgent message from our observation post near the edge of this system. A vessel of unknown design has appeared. Murmurs of concern swept through the hall. Linda felt her stomach tighten. Earth had only a small number of ships capable of interstellar travel. None should be here, a large screen appeared, showing a sleek silver craft approaching the space station where the Galactic Council was meeting. It didn't match any design Linda recognized from Earth or the other worlds she had studied. The vessel is not responding to standard communication protocols, the Grand Archon continued. Our security forces are on alert, but the ship's capabilities are unknown. Professor Zixtel moved to Linda's side. Is this from your world? He asked quietly. Linda shook her head. No, that's not an Earth design. I don't recognize it at all. The strange ship moved closer to the station. Suddenly, the lights in the great hall flickered. The image on the screen distorted, then cleared to show the ship extending what looked like a long, sharp probe toward the station's outer hull. It appears to be attempting to breach our security systems, the Grand Archon announced, his voice still calm but with a new edge of tension. We are implementing defensive protocols. Linda watched as small defense craft emerged from the station, surrounding the intruder. But before they could act, the alien ship fired a pulse of energy that disabled two of them instantly. Fear rippled through the assembly. Several representatives moved toward the exits. Others called out questions and demands. The calm diplomatic atmosphere had vanished. Linda felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Ambassador Walsh from the Proxima Centauri colony. This is bad timing, he said grimly. Just when they were starting to trust us? Linda nodded. Even though the ship wasn't from Earth, she worried that some might connect this new threat with the dangerous humans. Professor Zixtal had described earlier. The Grand Archon raised his hands for silence. We must remain calm and orderly. Our security forces are well trained for such situations. But as he spoke, the lights flickered again and then went out completely. Emergency lighting came on, casting an eerie blue glow through the hall. The screen showing the alien ship went dark. Panic began to spread. Some aliens used natural light from their bodies to see, creating strange patterns of illumination throughout the dark hall. Others made sounds of distress that the translation systems, now functioning only on backup power, struggled to convert. Linda noticed Professor Zixtel working frantically at a control panel. What's happening? She asked him. The unknown vessel has disrupted our main power systems, he explained. This should not be possible. Our technology is protected against such attacks. Can I help? Linda offered. The professor looked at her with surprise. You understand space station power systems? I worked on the Earth-Moon transit stations before becoming an ambassador, Linda explained. I'm not an expert, but I know the basics. The professor hesitated, then moved aside to give her access to the panel. Our systems are likely different from yours, but perhaps you will see something we miss. Linda studied the diagrams on the screen. They were indeed different from Earth technology, but the principles seemed similar. She noticed something odd in the power flow patterns. The disruption isn't coming from outside, she said after a moment. Look at this energy signature. It's coming from somewhere inside the station. The professor checked her analysis, his eyes widening. You are correct. But how? He was interrupted by a new voice that boomed through the emergency communication. System, representatives of the Galactic Alliance, hear me. I am Captain Frank Porter of the Earth Special Forces. I have taken control of your station to demonstrate the true nature of humans. Linda felt her blood run cold. She had never heard of Captain Porter or any Earth Special Forces. But she knew immediately what was happening and how disastrous it could be for Earth's hopes of joining the Galactic Alliance. This is not an official Earth action, she said loudly, making sure everyone nearby could hear her. Whoever this is, they do not represent our government or our people. The voice continued, harsh and commanding. For too long humanity has hidden its true strength to appease alien sensibilities. Today I will show you what humans are really capable of. Linda exchanged a worried look with Ambassador Walsh. All their careful diplomatic work was being undone in moments. The fear of humans that they had just begun to dispel was now returning stronger than ever. The Grand Archon approached them, his galaxy-like skin now dimmed with concern. Ambassador Hoffman, is this truly not an authorized action by your government? Absolutely not, Linda assured him. This goes against everything we believe in. Earth seeks peaceful cooperation, not domination. The Archon studied her face. Then we have a serious problem that threatens all of us. What do you suggest we do? Linda looked at the Grand Archon, whose ancient eyes held a question. Would she run from this crisis or face it? In that moment, she realized this was the true test of everything she had said about humans. I need to speak with this Captain Porter, she said firmly, and I need access to your communication systems. The Grand Archon nodded and led her to a small control panel that still functioned on emergency power. Professor Zixtal followed, his instruments ready to help. Captain Porter, Linda called into the system. This is Ambassador Linda Hoffman representing Earth. What you're doing is against everything our planet stands for. Please stand down immediately. There was a moment of silence, then a harsh laugh came through the speakers. Ambassador, you mean appeaser. You've been showing these aliens our weaknesses, making us look soft. They need to fear us to respect us. Linda took a deep breath. That's not true, Captain. Real respect isn't built on fear. It's built on trust and understanding. Save your diplomatic nonsense, Porter replied. I've taken control of this station's life support systems. Soon, all these aliens will know human superiority. A wave of fear moved through the assembly. Linda heard whispers of dangerous humans and death-world predators. All the fears Professor Zixtal had originally stirred up were returning tenfold. Ambassador Martinez pushed his way to Linda's side. Hoffman, this is a disaster. Earth will never recover from this diplomatically. We don't know that yet, sir, Linda replied. Then she turned to Professor Zixtal. You said the disruption is coming from inside the station. Can you locate exactly where? The professor consulted his instruments. The command is coming from Level 7, Section 12. It appears to be a maintenance area rarely used by station personnel. Linda nodded. I need to go there. That would be extremely dangerous, the professor warned. If this human truly has military training, it's our only chance, Linda interrupted. He won't listen to words. I need to show him he's wrong about how to represent Earth. Ambassador Walsh stepped forward. I'll go with you. Linda turned to the Grand Archon. Can you get us to Level 7? The ancient being considered for a moment, then gestured to one of his assistants. Show them the emergency access routes. They will not be monitored by the main systems. As they prepared to leave, Ambassador Martinez caught Linda's arm. This isn't your job, Hoffman. You're a junior diplomat, not security, Linda met his eyes. With respect, sir, this is exactly my job. I just spent hours telling everyone that humans solve problems, not create them. Now I need to prove it. Before Martinez could argue further, Linda and Ambassador Walsh followed the Archon's assistant to a small door hidden in the wall panel. It led to a narrow passage lit only by faint emergency strips along the floor. These maintenance tunnels connect all levels, the assistant explained. You can reach Section 12 undetected, but we cannot guarantee your safety once there. Thank You, Linda said. Please tell the Grand Archon to keep everyone calm and safe. We'll handle this. As they crawled through the narrow tunnels, Walsh whispered, Do you have a plan? Half of one, Linda admitted. Porter wants to show aliens that humans are dangerous. I want to show them we're more than that. They reached level 7 and carefully opened a small hatch. The corridor beyond was dark, with only emergency lighting casting blue shadows. Linda heard Porter's voice again over the station-wide system. Your life support systems will begin failing in sequence unless you acknowledge humanity's dominance in this sector of space. Walsh shook his head. This guy's insane. He can't possibly think this will work. Fear makes people do terrible things, Linda said quietly. Even humans. They moved silently down the corridor until they reached Section 12. Through a small window in a door, they could see a man in what looked like a makeshift uniform standing before a control panel. He was alone. That's not Earth military gear, Walsh whispered. It's all wrong. Linda studied the man. He's not military at all. Look at how he's holding himself. He's terrified. What do we do? Walsh asked. We're not armed. Linda thought about the little plant that had transformed poisonous water into something life-giving. We don't need weapons. We need to understand. Before Walsh could stop her, Linda opened the door and stepped inside. The man spun around, pointing a small device at her. Stop right there. Linda raised her hand slowly. I'm Ambassador Hoffman. And you're not Captain Porter of any Earth Special Forces, are you? The man's hand trembled slightly. Stay back. I've hacked into the life support. I can kill everyone. On this station, what's your real name? Linda asked, keeping her voice calm and even. After a moment of silence, the man replied, Greg Wells. Why are you doing this, Greg? His face hardened. Because they need to fear us. I heard the reports about this meeting. About aliens calling Earth a death world and humans dangerous predators. Well, if that's what they think, let's show them. They're right. Linda took a careful step forward. But they were starting to understand us better. To see that we're not just dangerous, we're creative, compassionate, adaptable. Weak, you mean? Greg spat. My grandfather was on the first contact mission to Proxima. The aliens there treated us like we were nothing, like we were beneath them. Ambassador Walsh stepped into the room. I'm from the Proxima colony, Mr. Wells. There were misunderstandings at first, yes, but we worked through them. We built trust. That's human strength, not weakness. Greg looked confused. But these aliens think we're monsters. Some did, Linda. Acknowledged. Based on incomplete information. Just like you have incomplete information now. The representatives in that hall were just starting to see humans as potential friends, not enemies. She took another step closer. Greg, what you're doing right now proves the worst fears some aliens have about humans. Is that really the message you want to send for our entire species? Greg's hand wavered. I just wanted them to respect us. Respect isn't the same as fear, Linda said gently. Real respect comes from understanding each other. From working together to solve problems, not create them. She held out her hand. Please give me the control device. Show them what humans really are, beings who can recognize mistakes and change course, beings who choose cooperation over conflict. For a long moment, Greg stood frozen, the device still pointed at Linda, then, slowly, his arm lowered. I didn't really want to hurt anyone, he whispered. I just wanted to be heard. I understand, Linda said. And there are better ways to be heard. Ways that build bridges instead of walls. Gradually, Greg handed over the device. Ambassador Walsh quickly moved to the control panel to restore normal operations. The systems are coming back online, Walsh reported. No permanent damage done? Linda placed her hand on Greg's shoulder. Thank you for making the right choice. That's the true strength of humanity, not our ability to threaten, but our capacity to choose a better path. When they returned to the Great Hall, the lights were back to full brightness. The Grand Archon and the assembled representatives watched as Linda entered with Greg walking beside her, not as a prisoner, but as someone who had made a mistake and chosen to correct it. The situation has been resolved, Linda announced. Not through force or threats, but through understanding and communication, the real tools that have helped humans survive on our challenging world. Professor Zixtal approached them, his instruments scanning Greg with interest. You risked your safety to resolve this peacefully, he observed, when you could have called for security forces. Linda nodded. Because that's the truth I wanted to show you about humans. Yes, we can be dangerous when threatened. But our real strength is our ability to solve problems without violence when possible, to transform dangers into opportunities, to choose connection over conflict. The Grand Archon's skin swirled with patterns that seemed to indicate deep thought. Finally, he spoke. Ambassador Hoffman, you have shown us something today that no scientific report could capture. You have demonstrated the truth about humanity through your actions, not just your words. He turned to address the full assembly. Perhaps we have been too quick to judge Earth and its people based on partial information. Today we have seen both. The dangers humans might pose and the gifts they might bring. The question before us now is whether we can find a path forward together. Linda looked around the room and saw something new in the alien's eyes. Not fear, not even just curiosity, but the beginning of genuine respect. I believe we can, she said. One conversation, one connection, one truth at a time.